Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Pitstop Fracas. You're joined today by your host, Richard, and I'm joined by two people who happen to be color coordinating with me. I promise you this wasn't planned. Anyways, no race weekend today, so this is just a filler, really, till France. So, a bit of a light-hearted podcast, not too heavy, but, could be one or two months. Anyways, joined by Kwame today. Kwame, how we doing, my guy?
I'm good, thanks. I mean, I've been enjoying the Euros as it is. Nice to see good football. In between the breaks of the Formula 1 calendar. I guess this is the week as well where football's coming home, and F1 maybe coming home as well to the others. George Russell was very close to could be joining Mercedes as well next year. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, good to be on the pod though, just to enjoy this beautiful football. Netherlands on right now. And yeah, good to see my brother Richard as well hosting as well. So, congrats there. But yeah, let's carry on the show.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. We've had some technical difficulties, but that just comes with the game anyway. Anyways, fresh back off his rants from 2 weeks ago, world acclaimed, where there was dunking on a certain pundit who's not been the same since. Streets usually ask me, why is he called Master Chef Richard? And I have to tell him, look, he can cook in the kitchen and he can cook on the pod. Multitasking. Instead of Marco Pierre White, should we call him Mart Pierre White? Mart, how we doing, brother?
I'm good. Sun's out, Euros is on. Enjoying life at the moment,
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, boy, I'm sweating, so thank God for this fan on my face right now, fam. I'm telling you now. Honestly.
I'm enjoying life though, but the hay fever is kicking me out, man. The cake is beating me up the past couple of days.
Fam, it had me in a chokehold last night. I was ready to call in sick, honestly. But luckily, little C, couple, tablets and whatnot, bit of green tea. Now I'm looking as good as new. Anyways, let's kick off with proceedings. We're here to talk about the state of the media. Now, for the since Lewis has joined Formula 1 in 2007, he's been getting a lot of stick off the media, and most of it unjust. We've noticed a lot, this season at least, that people like Paul de Resta and whatnot, and Ukraine scored. All right, okay, sorry, Ukraine scored, equalized. Anyways, back to work. We've noticed recently, this season, there's been a lot of pundits, like Paul de Resta and whatnot. I've been shown a lot of, bias towards certain drivers. So we want to know, are the pundits really biased? Or is this just happens to be a coincidence? Kwame, I'm going to start with you on this. Do you think there's some bias with some of the pundits? Or do you think, it just happens to be one of those things?
Yeah, I think there are some biases in some of the pundits. I mean, be honest, I think bias is got... It's notable, especially in sports. We have punditries and pundits, and where drivers, for example, former drivers, someone like Paul de Resta, for example, who used to drive in Formula 1, has raced against Hamilton, has raced against Vettel, and I'm pretty sure in one of his junior categories he was with them guys there. He was in their level, but unfortunately for him, his career hasn't planned out too well. So I feel like there's kind of, I don't want to say jealousy. It is jealousy, but I feel there's a couple of bit of jealousy there, a bit of bias in there, a bit of a bit of comparison there. But again, I wouldn't say all the punditry team is biased. I mean, I feel like drivers like Damien Hill as well. At one point, I feel like he was pretty biased against Hamilton. I thought maybe even hints are still there, but I seem to have melted out now, especially with his Pew's rolled towel. But I feel like other opponents there, like, shout out my boy Martin Brundle, of course. Shout out Ted Kravitz. And even on Channel 4, people like, Dave Jones, Lee McKenzie, Natalie Pinkham and whatnot. Some of them are just there for vibes, and some of them, their job is just there to interview the driver, and they're good at talking, interacting. Others, like your Kravitz and Brundle, are more of the technical type. So their thing is assessing the cars and the teams and the strategies they're doing. But I do feel like your opponents like Paul de Resta's out there for more of a shock value, which you see a lot of the time in football punditry. Also in UK, done by Sky and BT, where you do have your pundits, like your Graham Souness and Wade Keane, who are there just for shock value, which That's the case in Formula One, but I think it might be more keeping in, especially with Formula One getting a bigger audience at the moment and getting more of a divided fan base.
Yeah, I most definitely agree with that sentiment. Yeah, there is, there could be, ulterior motives. For example, with Nelson Piquet Sr., of course, Max is going out with his daughter. His son raced against Lewis in GP2 and beat him. So, of course, there would be, some sorts of sentiments and some sorts of bias and whatnot. So, it's nasty, but it's understandable. Mart, I'm going to touch on you for this as well. Are the pundits really biased to certain drivers, or, as I said before, is it just a coincidence?
I think you got two types of pundits. You got your former drivers that Lewis has smashed, and then you've got the ones that are there for technical, like as Kwame said, your Ted Kravitz, your Martin Brundles, even your Crofty. These guys, they don't have any real connections with teams in the sport, so they're just there just to give their opinion. But you do get, I think, more in Channel 4 based, you can get more of the bias, I find. Don't really like watching Channel 4, the highlights anyway, but that's beside the point. But yeah, you do get that type of bias where, David Coulthard, especially in the last couple of weeks, he's been saying a few things. I mean, obviously, Mark Webber has that connection with Red Bull, so he does sometimes lean towards that Red Bull bias. Nico Rosberg, even though he's a bit of a straight talker on Sky, he can sometimes lean towards that Mercedes bias as well. But I mean, sometimes it is really justified because they do ask him a lot of questions about Valtteri and Lewis, where they'll say something maybe Nico doesn't like about Lewis, and it's like, no, Lewis, and he'll just say it, Lewis is a great driver and this is what he does. So obviously, if you could get guys that would former racing drivers for certain teams, they will have their biases. As you said, even down to Max, whoever he's dating, he'll have his biases. But I think when it comes down to Lewis, more specifically, there has been a lot of biases in terms of his skin color, I believe. I will say that there's been more critique on him. I think I've said it on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, whenever you hear him talk, them talk about, someone said something about Lewis, about him. I can't remember what the comment was. I'm gonna have to find a tweet later. But they said something about him, about concentrating. And if he concentrates, then he will be able to help win this championship this year. And I just literally just said, like, we've been hearing this for the past 14 years since Lewis first came in, when he was dating Nicole Scherzinger. It was always about that, Lewis wants to go to that Hollywood, he wants to be star. And we just sit there and we look at it and you're like, but if you say this all the time, then how can you, if he's, sorry, Neville just called.
Yeah, sorry, we're watching the Holland-Ukraine match. That's why we keep getting distracted. So don't mind us, listeners. Right. We apologize.
So yeah, as I was saying about Nicole Scherzinger, when Lewis was dating Nicole Scherzinger, it was always in the tabloids, always in the papers. And it was like, is it a distracting to the driver? But it's like, no, because McLaren just haven't given him a good car. McLaren's strategies have been poor. McLaren have been favouring Jenson Button. And those are the type of things that have been happening. And they just keep on bringing it back to Lewis's personal life. Even now, Lewis doesn't really keep his personal life in the public that much anymore. So he's a very private person. And it's just, it is what it is. Like, Lewis has always been critiqued and you've been hearing about it. So you can't say he needs to focus on the next 7 years. He should be focusing this year, because we all know when Lewis wants to turn it on, Lewis will turn it on and he will just smash your way, guys. He will smash your way. That is Max Verstappen, for those who don't know.
Yeah, I mean, since he's joined the sport, like, he's averaged like what, a world championship every 2 years or something, and he's had all these distractions per se, No, as I said, he came into the game. He was dating Nicole Scherzinger. Like I can remember here, when Lewis, passed Timo Glock in Brazil 2008, here jumping up and down and whatever. What if she was that much of a distraction? Him passing Timo Glock wouldn't have mattered. Really, that's what I say. So only because Formula One's a funny thing because we're going to touch on Lewis as well. Like to say if he gets different treatments. Formula One's a funny thing because. When they see an athlete can basically juggle more than one job per se, do his job on the racetrack, on the football field, or wherever his profession is, as well as being able to have a personality and a personal life outside of that as well, and juggle the two, they can't compute that. They're like, how can he win this race? And how can he then fly out to LA, hang out with all these celebs, not do any extra time with the engineers or on the sim or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But this guy, he's, likes to go home to his family, have a nice, cuppa, with some biscuits, be by the fire with a cat, all that waffle, studying data. And, he can't catch up to this other guy. Listen, at the end of the day, if you can juggle both things, like, it is what it is. So, yeah, just to touch on what you said as well, Mart, as well. I'm going to come back to you on this, For example, in football, as we're all football fans, Phil Foden's dyed his hair blonde, to Paul Gascoigne, and there's all this media frenzy, like, oh my God, this is so good, blah, 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 blah. But when we've seen it over the years when Pogba has dyed his hair a different colour, there's been pushback, there's been backlash. And when it's just a hair colour, it's not on that deep. So to touch on this, do we think in the media as a whole, Lewis gets slightly different treatment for doing the same thing as what other man may do compared to other drivers? Let's go to you on the same, Kwame, actually. Sorry.
That's calm. I get everything, guys. I feel like there's a huge level of subconscious bias. I'm not even sure subconscious, maybe conscious, but there's a huge layer of, subconscious bias in the F1 community. The best example I can give, so many parallels I can say with Lewis, but I'll start with his countryman, fellow countryman, ex-teammate, Jenson Button. When he first came into the sport with Williams and Benetton and Renault, there was a lot of complaints about him being a playboy and whatnot. But even with the complaints, he was getting kind of, still geared up and still gets out to be the next big thing. Even though at the time there was rumors from, Flavio Toy, the principal of Benetton Renault, that he wasn't good enough, he should get dropped. He was struggling to get points. Even when he went to BAR and Honda, he started very poorly. Even though season 2004, I believe he came third or fourth, he still wasn't, challenging for the title or whatnot. And media was still saying gassing up to be the next big thing. It took him 2006 to get his first win, and that was the luck of Hungary. But compared to Lewis now, him being a quote unquote playboy, or him being a quote unquote playboy, it got a lot of slack and a lot of hate. Even though at the time, like Richard and Martin said, he did get his first championship in 08. He was dating Nicole Scherzinger. Things that way about Lewis, he's an anomaly as well. Like there's no other F1 driver in the modern time anyway who's been like a superstar, always been the guy or the celeb. No, not even Schumacher was really. Yes, he was known in the field. Yes, he was known as a guy, but he wasn't, hanging out, with your Winnie Harlows, your supermodels, or your Karen Jones or your Will Smiths or that ilk. But yeah, he still gets treated differently, even compared to Max, who's much more of an aggressive driver. See Max, pushing Ocon when they're doing the weigh-in when Ocon crashed into him and cost him his lead, I believe, in Brazil. Lewis recently, he hasn't done anything of that ilk. He's been relatively supporting of younger drivers like Norris and Russell, even though at the same time, when Verstappen does it, he gets told he has passion and desire, and his commitment, he has energy. But when Lewis does his little complaints on the radio, which is fair enough, given Mercedes strategies have been very questionable at times, he's been complaining that he's aggressive or he's a moaner or whatnot. Even though Max does the same thing, and Max even swears on the radio at times. And I can even say that again with the way Lando was talking about on his Twitch as well. His name gets Lando because he's doing this thing with the younger generation as well, getting fans of the Twitch. But the way he was complaining about Lewis when this season, I can't think of the situation off the top of my head. But it's this season when Lando was complaining about Lewis on his live stream. There was no backlash. I'm pretty sure it was to do with qualifying to the podium. I'll come back to it. But there's no issues there. But if that was Lewis again, he'll get a lot of complaints. So I do feel like there is bias. Not even with the media, actually even media as well, but I think to do with the whole F1 circuit. And I definitely do think like diversity is an issue. That's why I feel like Lewis, because he's a trailblazer, and I do feel like someone like him can push change in the sport.
Yeah, I also think it not even just in terms of what Lewis does with his behavior and his outside work, because I mean, obviously, as black people, all three of us are black boys, we've all heard the saying: whatever you do, you got to do twice as better, you got to work twice as hard, and you've got to carry yourself in a certain way in a professional environment. And Lewis has been a perfect example of that. He's always done that. There's very rarely any time you hear a scandal with him. If he's not happy about something, he really doesn't really like to talk about it publicly. Whenever he's not happy with Mercedes, what does he always say? We'll deal with this as a team. Anytime there's a question about Valtteri, he doesn't throw his teammate under the bus like maybe some other drivers might do. Sometimes you hear other drivers say, oh, he needs to be quicker, or he needs to do this, he needs to work on this. You'll never really hear Lewis say that. He'll say, well, we'll take this internally and we'll talk about this as a team. If there's a problem with Valtteri or even Nico, even when he had his spat with Nico, I mean, like that was the only time you've ever really seen it kind of blow over into like the media, where their beef was kind of a bit public. And where I remember when he was it Monaco, where they asked him, how is this to do with your friendship with Nico? And he's like, Nico's not my friend. And this is like the closest we've ever had to Lewis saying something unprofessional in a way, I believe. So when it comes down to media, and also they're questioning Lewis as well, just to touch on that, like they're asking questions about things that they wouldn't ask other drivers about. Like Yuki will get asked, oh, what's your favorite thing about being an F1 driver this first season? Or what do you feel, how do you feel you can improve? Those simple questions, like in the press conference days, they'll ask like those drivers, or they might ask Lando Norris about his Twitch fans and all his fans and stuff. But when it comes to Lewis, for example, we all know what happened with Naomi Osaka at the French Open. He was the only one to be questioned about it. And this is something that always happens to Lewis. Anytime there's a major issue, especially in the wider area of sports, I mean, yes, okay, Lewis is very well spoken. He's very intelligent in the way he thinks about things and his thought processes and how he discusses sensitive issues. But it's always coming down to Lewis, and it's always Lewis getting asked. There was one situation, I think 2 seasons ago, where they asked Lewis about it wasn't LGBT.
I think it might be. I think I'm talking about. I think it might be a situation where he is a situation because his cousin was in the dress and he took a photo, and then they
No, it wasn't that. It was one where Seb. It was where Seb interrupted, and Seb ended up answering the question for Lewis.
Oh no, I'm not talking about it. Yeah. No, that situation was they were getting to him in the press room. They were like saying, why I know what you're talking about.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. I remember Seb said, "Can I answer this?" And said, "Yeah." I can't remember what it was about, something to do with like being too aggressive or something. I can't remember. I know exactly what you're talking about, though. Yeah, because Seb intervened. Yeah, of course.
And I think there's a number of times. It's not the first time Seb's ever intervened in an interview with Lewis as well. So there's been other times where they will ask questions and they were like, "Oh, but," and this is why I love. This is why I personally love Seb as a driver on the race course. I mean, Quick Stop. I was listening to Quick Stop F1 podcast last week, and they kind of highlighted some of the best qualities about Seb on it. And they called him like an uncle on the track. And he kind of is that uncle on the track, because when Seb you ask Seb about anything, Seb will always give you a very well-rounded answer, and he always looks out for every driver on the grid, no matter what's happening between them. And that was literally it. So sometimes Lewis does get some unwarranted questions. Like, ask him some fun questions. We want to know how Roscoe's doing. They never ask him about Roscoe. Like, ask him, how's Roscoe doing? What did you do with Roscoe on your break? those type of questions that you ask the other drivers. Whereas let's get to know Lewis personally rather than Lewis as just an activist. I mean, yes, we've spent 14 years with Lewis, but everything they do, they'll ask Lewis about LGBT. They'll ask Lewis about mental health awareness. They'll ask Lewis about Black Lives Matter. They'll ask Lewis about, God knows, they'll ask him about COVID vaccines. How is he going to distribute COVID vaccines? We don't know. Like, Lewis is just one man, and him being the only black person in that sport as well, it just adds more pressure because he always has to think and answer these things intelligently because he knows how he'll end up reflecting back on everybody else of color who wants to get into that sport. Not just black people, but just people of color that want to get into that sport. So there is a lot of pressure when it comes to the media on him, I believe.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of you guys' points, honestly. You know, it's like, as you said with the Naomi Osaka thing as well, I knew they were going to only ask him about that one. Like, I just knew. It's like, they only want to ask Lewis black issues, but they won't ask any other. Like, you'll never see them asking about that with, like, Mick Schumacher, because you know it doesn't make sense. They're like, ooh, there's been a black issue over this place. Let's ask Lewis about it, because obviously he's black. He'll have something to say. It's like, okay, is there really any relevance to it? Like, asking him, like, just because he's black, because, you know, I don't know, you want to just get some sort of unique answer or something else of him. I just said they don't really ask that many fun questions. It's a lot of serious questions as well, and
that's why I just want to go back to that with Seb, because I know Seb's never really been asked about these things, but Seb does make comments about it as well. And especially, I think it was last year when there was the whole kneeling and the Black Lives Matter movement. They didn't really ask. I mean, they asked some drivers what are they going to do if they're not kneeling or if they're not going to do whatever they're doing. But Seb really gave very good answers, and he was talking about how we live in this modern world. Yes, there's been a lot of changes, and we want to see people get fair and equal chances. And Seb will always give those type of answers. And so if Seb can give those type of answers, why don't we ask other drivers? You don't have to ask the kid drivers. I'm not going to say ask those 20-year-olds or whatever they think, because, I mean, they're millennials. They have different views, but they might not be able. May not be the right people to ask at this moment in time. Maybe like someone like Yuki, you wouldn't really ask him something like that. But you can ask Yuki about mental health things. How's your mental health been affected coming into F1? Those type of issues. How do you what's it called? Ask who's a senior driver? Like
Alonso. Yeah.
Ask Alonso about what are your views on Black Lives Matter or whatever it is. Him being from a certain nation. We won't speak on that. Yeah. And you know what some family fans could be like.
Yeah.
Well, I think the main issue is
the things that you should be asking to Alonso. You know, as a media, if you know that he has some fans that have said some questionable things, ask him what his views on it are. Don't just ask Lewis as being the token black guy for the sport. He's not the token black guy. He's
that's really treating these questions though. They treat him like he's the token black guy, the one black guy they get for like, let me ask this question, that question, see if it's comfortable or if it's safe. And I mean that's why I kind of rate Seb. Even Lewis himself, like with the Black Lives situation with the whole kneeling, the only person he rated at the time and felt comfortable was Seb. And Seb ironically was the head of the GPDA, and he was one of the guys that headed it. The other guy was Grosjean, and Grosjean at the time, he even Lewis against edge came Grosjean, because Grosjean thought it'll be a one-time thing, one-time nil, then it'd be solved. And Lewis said, no, this is a constant issue that needs to be brought up, needs to be talked about. And since then, it's been a constant thing on the grid. But it's a big issue. I feel like some of the drivers just don't really care. I mean, you get people like Kimi, he's one of the oldest statement, and this guy is just here, just vibes. Well, I'm just here. I feel like it's issue with the sport as a whole. But I feel like with drivers like Seb being the uncle, him giving his views, giving his opinion, him kind of, I guess, mentoring someone like Nick, even the post-grid, the Neil, for example, in the T-shirt he had, for example, even small things like that. Because I remember they definitely tried to find Lewis for his Breonna Taylor T-shirt. But But I mean, obviously, go through that, and now you've got people like Seb having the sciences, the sciences, besides all Black Lives Matter t-shirt along with Mick. But I feel like with the sport, I feel like more needs to be done in the more, I guess, social aspect. I know people try to say, politics is not involved in sport. Okay, you can say that, but politics is involved in sport. End of. You get teams like Ferrari being able to veto anything that happens in the sport. You get in FIA being linked with politicians and money. Like, it's a real important issue that has to be talked about, and more needs to be done. Rather than always asking Lewis, ask the other drivers what they think, and there should be more of a comfortable space. But if you have younger drivers like people like your Leclerc, not and Max, for example, and they're in the same generation as us, you feel like they'd be more in tune. But even if they're not prepared to know or be of needing, or even understand the issue at stake, I feel like there's an issue in hand here with the driving sport.
It comes back down to, like, I don't know if you both will agree with me, but I feel like it comes back down to the fact, the amount of money that it costs to become an F1 driver now. So if you think about it, you have to be basically a millionaire to get into the sport. And being a millionaire, there's going to be things like there's going to be things like where you're not you're going to be disconnected from certain issues, aren't you? So there's not going to be a lot of black faces around being a millionaire if you're not in a predominantly black country, let's say. So someone who might know a bit better about it might be like Lance Stroll. He comes from Canada. There's probably more black faces than maybe Max in the Netherlands. So it's just a bit like those type of things. But if you are disconnected from those issues, then you're not going to really have any views, so you won't understand it. So I don't know if you.
That's the issue again. I give you, like, a lot of the drivers are going to have a short upbringing, and obviously, if you are from a certain class, like I was saying, from like a more of a upper or a higher or even middle class, for example, you're not going to be interacting with the people of the quote unquote lower classes who would be affected by majority of the issues at hand. And also, again, a lot of these people, they'll lose time on school because they'll be karting, they'll be traveling. So you are going to have a disconnect. You are just going to be in a bubble, essentially, of just go-karting drivers who, like we've just said, a lot of people got money. Current drivers now look at your Strolls, your Mazepins, even your Norris, whose dad is a billionaire. I'm talking about the Latifis as well. Not to dig at them, to dig at Mazepin, but not to rest them. But my point is that you're going to be in a show of life, so you're not going to understand these social issues, these social struggles, which someone like a Hamilton, who is a black man, who would understand and face because he's experienced with that. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with both you guys' points regarding that. I think it'd be a lot easier if there was another black person, alongside Lewis, that to sort of share that burden in some ways, because it's almost like Lewis is carrying the whole of the black community within that sport. It's almost like if Lewis, even when, for example, let's say Monaco, for example, when he was obviously pissed off on the radio, he wasn't shouting and screaming or nothing. He was just, mildly pissed off. He was like, whoa, why are we still behind Gasly and whatever, understandably so. There was all this raw, like, oh, he's a crybaby, all he does is moan, blah, blah, blah. All these typical gamma responses that you hear time and time again. But with Max, for example, when there was the red flag in qualifying, and he was shouting and swearing all over the place, there wasn't no backlash there. People were saying, oh, yeah, it's passion, and, it's part of this game, and blah, 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 giving all these wass excuses. So there is still, as Kwame said before, unconscious bias. There is definitely still racial bias that people almost don't even realize that they're doing when they say certain things and do certain things. Like, even in the real world, like, I've experienced it as well, like, with certain things. Like, I'm sure you used to have as well. When someone says something where you're like what? And they don't realize they're saying something, that's, with racial bias or a stereotype or something like them lines. Like, it can be very tiring. When I said Lewis has always said he's had to portray himself as the perfect role model since the age of 8, since he stepped to a go-kart. Like, people will always have these stereotypes of these children these judgments of black people, especially of Lewis, and he's had to like keep up with that for almost 30 years, and still to this day, people are like, oh, Lewis is so aggressive. Oh, he's such a crybaby. Oh, even when, for example, what was it, Damon Hill said a couple of weeks ago, ooh, I love it when Lewis is not, like, I'm just paraphrasing it, I love it when Lewis is not moody or whatever when he's in an interview. He's barely ever moody, like, interviews. Like, hardly ever. Even when he's pissed off, it's not even, like, proper, like, you tell he tries to suppress it in. When you're pissed off, you can see, like, let's say little black person suppress the anger in. Because they know if they lash out,
it's long. It's long, yeah.
It's long, innit? Like, it even happened to me yesterday when I went out as well. Like, I got rejected. Like, quick story, I got rejected into this establishment because I had shorts on. But they said you classify them as sports shorts. It was just a pair of normal shorts with a Jordan logo on them. And I was like, I didn't see this policy on your website. So I was thinking, in that moment, I thought to myself, okay, let me be like that. You know what I mean? That typical black person. Let me just lash out. And then I have to suppress myself and be like, do you know what? No, I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna have to be the bigger man. I'm gonna have to walk away, you know, all that shit. And it's just, like, I don't think people realize unless you're black how irritating it can be. Like, even just the smallest of things in the workplace where it can get deemed as aggression. Typical angry black person, typical angry black woman. Each and every time, like, more. I can't like this sometimes where I want Lewis to just lash out. Just be like, oh, okay, you think I'm this way anyway. I may as well just live up to it. Because even when he tries to be this perfect role model, there's still questions over it. So it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
And I feel like, I feel like it's also like when it comes to black people as well, when we deal with these things on an everyday basis, sometimes we're always questioning it as well. Is this racially motivated, or is it just like, for example, with your shorts? Is it just policy? Does it happen to everybody else, or is it racially motivated? Like sometimes I go out. And I remember there was one occasion where I went out and it was like, we don't let people in with those type of. I was wearing Air Max 97s, and Air Max 97 have an air bubble, and they said, we don't let people in after a certain time with air bubble trainers. I'm like, is that just your policy, or are you saying that because I'm black? Because there's another person in there wearing Air Maxes, and like, is that generally your policy? Like after 8, you don't. Because you expect people to come in for clubbing purposes, do you let them in with air bubbles, or you don't let them in with air bubbles, and that person just happened to be in there before 8? So if I came before 8, would I be allowed to wear my air bubble shoes? But it's just a type of you just always question it, and I feel like that's the thing with Lewis. Lewis is probably always questioning it himself as well. When these things are happening, do they mean it? Are they being like racially biased on purpose? Do they actually know what they're doing? And sometimes you notice it a lot, like as you said, Richard, a lot of white people don't even realize they're doing it because it's just the way the world has been for so long that it's always like,
it's the way they grow up in environments.
And it's like because of the way we're brought up to always be professional in environments, not to lash out, to do this. White people almost expect us to behave in that same manner in everything we do. So when we do lash out, it's like, oh no, he's been an angry black man. Oh, he's been an angry black. He's gonna go pull out his blue bandana now, and he's gonna crip people on my neck. It's like those type of things. You just don't know.
Also as well, bro, just culture difference as well. Because like with black people, I know I'm generalizing, but we tend to be very more in our I don't say natural habitat, but we tend to be very more like expressive. Like if you look at our music, if you look at our comedy, if you look at our fashion, if you look at our podcast, we're very much more expressive. And now you have to translate that into a work environment where you've always been told tone down, settle in. Over time as well, settle down, which we do, but it's hard to not be yourself. And over time, when you're angry, annoyed, that certain bits will come out. But the issue is you get, due to society, you get mixed in with the stereotypes saying, oh no, he's an angry black man, oh no, he's aggressive. Even though it's not being aggressive, being angry, he's just being passionate. And that could him just being, happy or excited, and it gets pulled in. And like I said with Lewis, like he's down, he doesn't, because there been a situation in the past where he says a joke. I remember Lee McKenzie asked him, it's a channel for BBC Days, where she asked him, why do you always get called to the stewards? And he responded, it's because I'm black, which is an Ali G reference. And even actually, it was just a joke in general.
That one, yeah.
And I remember he just got Steve for that. And I'm just there thinking, like maybe it is. Maybe it is, you know. But I'm just there seeing people get backlash saying, he's race baiting, he did this and that. And it's
playing the race card, yeah.
Playing the race card, yeah. And I guess I'm lucky for him because F1 is really the white man sport, because majority of people there are white, are middle-aged, and are men. So he's in a lose-lose situation in that essence as well, in that there's not much people like him who could understand where he's coming from in interviews or in race situations or in social experience as well. Especially the fact that he's from, you know, he's not from London per se, he's from Stevenage and Hertfordshire, but not far, you know, from, you know, LDN. So it'll be a different culture, different life to someone like George Russell who grew up in Norfolk, or someone like a Norris who grew up in Bristol, I believe, or Glastonbury. So it's a different environment, different culture. So you have to put that into context as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Look, I just hope the next black driver that comes in is unapologetically black and good as well, so he has equity, because I'm sick of it. Like, I'm sick of having to suppress myself. I'm sick of having to see other people have to do it to keep a good image. Boy, the sooner you just accept it and then get on with it, the better. But hey, that's another conversation for another time. So swiftly moving on, we're going to talk about two particular pundits in man, if you will, and that's Paul di Resta and David Coulthard. So just to touch on you, Mart, with Paul di Resta and David Coulthard, or either or, which one you ever want to touch on, do you think, you know, they be showing a lot of bias? Do you think they'd be moving different this season compared to other seasons with how they're treating Lewis compared to Max? Do you think they're just excited that, you know, they get to go on Max's private jet? You know, they get to get fed, you know, grapes and cheese and whatever, I don't know, Dutch people eat. I don't know. You know,
yeah.
Are you just excited that Lewis is getting competition? Are you just sick to death of seeing them? Like, what is the deal with these two this season? Because I've been seeing a lot more prevalence of Paul di Resta's Red Bull bias, and it's getting a bit nasty now. It's getting a bit disgusting. So, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, with Paul di Resta, I think it's more bias rather than actual. I will say this. I mean, I had my little rant. I had my rant the other day, especially more centered around David Coulthard's comments. But I will say that I think more David Coulthard, being a fan of the sport, he's just happy to see competition for Lewis, and obviously Valtteri never actually brought that competition for Lewis that Rosberg did. So to finally have a race driver that everyone believes will be like the next biggest thing in the sport, and to see him actually challenging Lewis, I will give Coulthard the kind of a pass in terms of some of his comments on Verstappen and Hamilton this season. In past seasons, probably I wouldn't give him as much of a pass. But this season, I will say he's just more happy to finally see a competition. Being a former driver and especially a big fan of the sport, and listen, as much as I'm not the biggest Max fan, I'm happy as well that Max is finally taking. Well, there's a driver really taking it to Lewis, because it does get boring. I mean, I remember in the 2010 to 24, not really 2010, but when Red Bull were just dominating and Vettel was winning it, it did get boring. And F1 can get boring if Lewis is just winning all the time. Like, as much as I like to see Lewis winning it, it will get boring. And you've got to think about, like, yeah, we do want to see competition. So I will give him the pass, but I do feel some of his comments have been a bit, yeah, they've been very biased towards Max. It's like, oh, Max is going to do this and he's going to do that, when, as I've said before, we have no evidence that Max can actually ever produce any of these things. And we've seen so much young drivers coming through now, and we've seen what Lando Norris is doing in the McLaren. Like, okay, if you put Lando Norris in a Mercedes, for example, he could probably, well, he'll be doing a lot better than Bottas, and he'll probably be challenging with Max. And I'm not saying he'll be like up there, but he'll be getting very good points. He'll be getting a lot more podiums. He'll probably be on a podium every week if he was in like a Mercedes or something. So when we've seen all these new crop of drivers, I feel like it's more of a bias towards Verstappen rather than against Lewis, I would say, in terms of, for David Coulthard anyway. For David Coulthard, it's more of a bias towards Max Verstappen, thinking that he's going to be such this revelation, the next Schumacher, or we can even sound, I'll say the next Lewis Hamilton, being that type of driver when we have no evidence. And I think it's a bit brazy to say some of the things he does say about Max. But in terms of, as I said before, there's a lot of other drivers now coming up who are looking at their similar levels to Max. As I said, I've said in the past, Leclerc, I mean, he's not showing a great showing for himself at the moment, but Leclerc has that ability to get up to that level if you give him a couple more seasons. Like, if you give him 6 seasons that Max has had already, maybe Leclerc could get up to that type of pace that Max is showing at the moment. Norris is showing that pace that Max is showing at the moment in a McLaren, while the McLaren's not quite with the Red Bull. Norris is showing a lot of pace and he's having some good races. And obviously there's England's, or I'll say Great Britain's star boy in George Russell as well. Again, another one I have my opinions on, but he's seen as the next best thing as well. So we don't really hear much about these drivers outside of the fan service they get in terms of in the media, where the media don't really big up those Russells or the Norrises or the Leclercs. I mean, they talk about them and say, yes, they're very good drivers, but they never put them on that same level that they put Max on, where I feel like these three guys especially aren't that, even Pierre Gasly, they're not that far off Max's level at the moment if you give them a good enough car to actually challenge Max. So it will, and I suppose it will go on to something that we'll touch on a bit later about the drivers and stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah, most definitely, brother. Definitely. I don't mind competition for Lewis, to be fair. At the same time, I don't mind him stinking up the gym because I just want to see him break on all the records. Really, I just want to see a black man on top of all the records. That's it. I grew up a Schumacher fan. He was my idol. And then he dipped out, and then Lewis came in, and then he became my new idol. And then, I felt like, he's doing what I want to do. So I feel like there's a part of me, within him, basically. So, yeah, I just wanted to stink the joint. So I don't care if he gets 150 wins, 200 podiums, 12 World Championship. I don't give a shit. Just stink the joint out and just make all these, who's mad at it. that's the long and short of it, isn't it? So moving on to something else as well. That's broadcasting rights. Does Sky deserve them? Or do we think there should finally be some more competition? As you know, Sky hold all of the rights, show all of the races. Channel 4 hold a couple of races here and there. I don't know what the exact deal is. But, do you think, someone like, I don't know, like an Amazon or even like a Netflix or something, like, to do like live streaming, basically, or even F1 themselves, because, F1 has their own website, their own little subscription thing, where they have the archives. If they was to have a hold of it and let's say only charge £10 a month, I'd much prefer that, to be honest, with some of the, like Martin Brundle and whoever to come over as well. So I'm going to come to you on this, Kwame. Does Sky wholly deserve the rights to continue broadcasting F1, or do you think we finally need some competition?
I mean, with Sky, I'm not the biggest fans, but the issue with broadcasting rights is literally is an answer. It's literally whoever puts the most money to host F1 gets it. So that's the issue. The game's a game. And with Sky, they just at the time they saw a hole in the market for F1. Their sports coverage at the time was lacking on most sports coverage, and they bought the rights off the BBC, who at the time were broke and needed to offload he needed to offload Formula 1 at the time, and originally it was Sky and then BBC, and then BBC were broke, and then they gave it to Channel 4. And Channel 4 have only got have only got to show live coverage of the British Grand Prix due to some laws we have in this country, which is pretty lucky. Which it's similar to laws that, for example, Wimbledon has to be on BBC, FA Cup final has to be on live TV and whatnot. So other than that, though, Channel 4 only have the highlights, which I mean, to be honest, I mean, you can talk about Channel 4's coverage, which I'll probably let Mars go on to. I know he wants to talk about Sky's coverage as well. I saw his reaction to that as well. But I feel like free-to-air coverage is definitely needed. We've seen this debate as well. We're talking about with the Champions League final now, exclusively on BT. I feel like with free-to-air TV, it does give the opportunity for more fans and more people to watch it, and a bigger audience that previously wouldn't watch it. That's how you get new fans into the sport. Whilst you put it on a paywall or like your Sky coverages or your BT coverages, or I'll get into subscription services with your Amazon Prime, maybe Netflix or F1 account too as well. It does kind of block that up. And this is all kind of blurry, to be honest with you, because the issue UK is a bit of an interesting one, because obviously now, like Richard said, F1 have their own live format. They do races themselves, or they live stream. I want to get they do use Sky's live stream, so it is still quality and bundle on the commentary, but they do upload it to other countries with other features like F5 Radio, which our boy Nyam, he's got coverage too and whatnot, and they do all that. But yeah, due to Bernie having an exclusive deal with Sky, that's not possible. But when this deal ends, I'm not sure on the date. I'd like to in 2023 or 2024, but don't quote me in that. I can see it definitely being rejiggled. I can definitely see F1 being showed their live coverage in the UK on the website. The Netflix deal, obviously, Drive to Survive have got a deal with Netflix. Shout out to the Americans taking charge, Drew Carey and the young guys. And the young guys there, F1. Liberty Media as well, them guys there. They've now opened it more to an accessible market, and they're using the subscription method, which is become more popular, which we'll definitely see in the future, because Sky haven't got as much money as Amazon. Let's be real. They haven't got as much money as your Netflix. That means it hasn't got as much money as your BN Sports. So I feel like Sky, their jig is going to be up soon. And as we saw with BBC, like you had people like Martin Bundle and Ted Kravitz, he was on BBC, and even ITV, like back in the early noughties, back in the day, they will probably get shipped over to whoever gets the new coverage for us. I don't see Sky hold on to them, to be honest with you. And yeah, and BBC or Channel 4 ITV or whatever free tier will probably still do highlights as well, because again, it seems the main sport. You still have that with your Match of the Day on BBC, and you still have that with your outdoor highlights like your Olympics or whatnot. So that's my prediction. The can't broadcast tonight.
What about you, Mart? I know you were shaking your head at Sky, so I'm guessing that means a no.
Listen, I have a personal vendetta about Sky anyway. I feel like Sky, they price out too many fans. Even like just, you can get F1 just the subscription, and you have to pay £220 for the year. £220 for the year. That's ridiculous. There's lots of other sports that, and we're just talking about for like 23 odd races, or access to their channel, which just shows replays of old races. And that's, how do you expect young fans to come into the sport, to get into F1 like I did, watching it on BBC One? How do you expect that a fan to get £220, especially in the times that we're living in now, where there's a lot of families that are struggling to pay bills and stuff, especially in this COVID period? It just doesn't make sense to me. And I believe Sky they've been pricing everyone out of every single sport that they've gotten their hands on. You saw when those clubs announced the European Super League, how they were fighting for their life. Like, listen, this is what Sky. You remember that R. Kelly meme where he was like, "Look, is this camera on me? I'm fighting for my life." That was Gary Neville. That was Gary Neville on when they announced the Super League. And Sky they've literally been fighting. for exclusive rights, and I hate exclusive rights. I like what the Americans have done in terms of what they do with the NBA and NFL. They got their league passes, and they're reasonably priced. I mean, the NBA league pass I think is about the same as what Sky will charge for the F1 pass, and that is like £200. But sorry, that's like £200, and you're getting about 1,000+ games, and you expect me to pay £200 for about 23 races? Or sometimes it's not even 23 races; it could be 22, and I don't even get a refund when they cancel the Singapore Grand Prix or the Canadian Grand Prix. I just have to suck it up. It's ridiculous, though, and they're pricing young fans out of sports, and I really, really hate it because I remember I'm looking at it now. I remember watching F1, and how many fans would have come in watching BBC One, been able to watch that BBC One and be able to watch the sport. And I'm not saying you know what, you have to make it free for everyone, but at least make it reasonably priced, man. Price it reasonably that someone could use like their pocket money. Say that you get £5 a week for pocket money and you want to spend it on watching F1. You can use that £5 a week to watch F1. Why does it have to be £200 or a day pass or £10 a day? It just doesn't make sense to me at all. It's just completely ridiculous what Sky are doing at the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree. Look, anytime Sky get muddled, it brings a smile to my face because all they do is just channels each and every time. I cancelled my Sky sports subscription just before lockdown, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made. I now pursue other legal methods to watch my sports, and it's a lot more efficient. Look, yeah. I grew up on ITV, being on having the rights to F1. If they go back to ITV and they take Martin Brundle, Crofty, that Alice Jacks who does like F2 and all that, he's really, really good. And Ted Kravis, and Nico, super team. Honestly, we eating good. Hopefully, in a couple of years that may happen, but
Sky's days are numbered, man. Hopefully, their days are numbered. I'm telling you, like I'm tired of it all because, as I said, if you're a general sports fan, like a lot of us, we watch multiple sports. You watch football, you watch F1. I watch basketball, I watch NFL. Do you know how much money that is? Like,
well, it's too much money.
Yeah, it's a joke thing. Yeah. It's a joke thing.
Broke. I'm broke.
Yeah.
£50 a month to go towards all that. That's all long, man. That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, Sky best in piss, isn't it? Anyways, Tyre talk. Just to lightly touch on the fiasco of last week in Baku. So what's next for Pirelli? Kwame, I'm gonna lightly touch on you for this one.
Cool. So Pirelli, next year, 2022, there's gonna be a rev change. So the car's gonna be different, and to accommodate the rev change, probably gonna do a brand new 18-inch tires, which will be much more wider. The reason they're doing that is to make sure, because the cars will be heavier, the cars are predicted to be more heavier. It's to kind of support the cars and to change the racing as well. They've been doing testing for it as well, but testing for it hasn't been that great because it's only been 9 teams out of 10. Williams said no because at the time they were broke and logistical reasons as well. But yeah, it's been only 28 days of testing, which we obviously know how limited testing is now compared to back in the day. But 20 days of testing for me, I feel like that's too little time because the way they're doing it as well, they're doing it with different models as well. So certain teams, so it seems like Haas are doing their car model, but you have teams like Ferrari doing like older versions of their car they're testing it on, and some of them have also been doing it based on 6 other days been doing on wet weather as well. So only 22 days in the dry, 6 days in the wet weather, and they even planning to get rid of tire blank as well in 2024, which I think is just dangerous, but I can't lie because tire blankers are there to keep the tires warm, and when you keep the tires warm, it's going to be better grip, it's going to be less likely to spin, less likely to crash, and obviously it'll be more slower. So I can see what the FIA are trying to do. They're trying to because now currently obviously you can't refuel due to situations he had back in the day. Like, remember, don't you guys remember Mamasa? He had this beef with a situation where his full time got on fire. So the only other changeable variable they really have except for the car itself is the tires. So I feel like they're trying to use the tires to make this racing more close, and I don't say dangerous, but more touchy-feely, touchy-go, whatever. And then they're trying to make it more closer. So they're adding all these different specs to it, and Pirelli. I feel like Pirelli, they're kind of in the middle of everything because they've got specs from the FIA, and the FIA really want to make this racing close, especially with the whole Liberty Media thing as well. They're trying to dragging kind of the new-ish fan that likes this close racing. But they also got teams who are also going to be complaining. And even the drivers themselves have been complaining that the drivers have been doing the tests. I think you guys know they've been saying, the tires are not good. I don't feel too comfortable with them. Even the current tires with Baku, which we'll get into as well. But they were not comfortable with that. Yet they're still kind of pursuing, but then at the same time, they're kind of distracting from FIA. But I know the teams and the fans are happy. So, listen, with the tires for next year, we'll just have to see. Luckily, in the future, issue with Baku is they use the softest tires in Baku. So they use the C5s, I believe, C5 tire from Pirelli. So they are the softer tires that can be used, and that's only going to be used next in Abu Dhabi and Sochi. And with Abu Dhabi and Sochi, because of where they are based, Abu Dhabi is obviously the desert, Middle East, while Sochi kind of based next to a beach, breathe on the Caspian Sea in Russia. Because their track temperature is hot, there shouldn't be no issues per se with the tires there kind of disintegrating as they did in Baku. But there's been so many different reports from Pirelli. They've been saying it's due to the debris. Then you've had other drivers, saying their piece as well. I've got Miko trying to say that's due to the right kink straight in Baku, and there's been other various things. But yeah.
And Pirelli released like a statement, like yesterday or the day before. They said, well, they haven't actually released the statement yet. Sorry, I shouldn't say that, but Gazzetta dello Sport came out and said that according to their sources from Pirelli, the reason as to why the Aston Martin and Red Bull tires popped was because that they didn't follow the directions. The teams didn't follow directions of Pirelli. So I think Pirelli said you have to have the tires at 20 psi, and Red Bull and Aston Martin had them at 19 psi. So that's what they're saying. About the I keep on getting mind blanks. So they're saying about the that's it basically. Yeah, I can't remember. But I just want to say I'm just all for it. Just bring back Michelin and Bridgestone, man. I feel like if you can have your tire choices, your engine choices, I feel like you should be able to have your tire choices. What tire works best with the engine you have and what the gearbox you have. I'm all for it. Like we've heard Michelin always talk about coming back into the sport or whatever it is. So just bring them back in, and hopefully that we can get more competition into the thing, and Pirelli will fix themselves up. Back in the day, it used to be great to see the different types of tires and how they were doing, and it's just all about being smart as well. Teams have to think a bit more. It will affect the pace of the cars, and that's it. Yeah, just bring back Michelin and Bridgestone.
Yeah, just to go on you to that, Kwame, real quick. Should we bring back more competition in terms of, because Pirelli's deal ends, I think, in 2023 as it stands, so we're only going to have them for like the next 3 years. Do you think after that we should bring back, Bridgestone and or Michelin back?
I mean, I'm not really the biggest fan of the tire war. I mean, it sounds good on paper, but for I don't see it happening personally due to the issue with the whole Indy 500 and how that situation all handed out. because you had your. I mean, again, you could try to put the blame on Michelin for not handling the tire bank situation and that's on that circuit, but that's a unique circuit as it did have the oval straight, which isn't the case on other circuits. The only similar situation now you've got is in Mexico, I believe, with the stadium straight. But the way that situation handled out with obviously you have your tires bursting with Michelin complaining, saying that no, they're not racing as they thought it was not safe, but Bridgestone tires was handled for that circuit because I'm pretty sure they've had link before with Indy 500 and dead racing that's settled. I feel like it's a bit of an unfair variable, and I feel like the sports is a bit too scared for it to happen again. But it would be fun. It would be nice to have a different variable, of course. Seeing how different tires do compare, seeing how they'll handle the strategies are different. But I feel like the sport is too scared of that situation. That was one of the most embarrassing one in the sports where only six of the 22 or so cars at that time there actually raced. And also what happened then with Bridgestone was Bridgestone literally only used by the lower teams. So at the time that'd be Minardi and Jordan, and then Ferrari was everyone used Michelin, which were the better tires, and I believe Ferrari had some sort of deal with Bridgestone. And then the way the FIA kind of shared Bridgestone for the 2005 season and pretty much base the tires on the Michelin so that Ferrari could fall down the pecking field and Renault win the 2006 season. I mean, I feel like it could be done properly. I just feel like it depends on how the FIA do it, but I feel like there's going to be certain biases and certain politics and F1 that will get played. So it would be fun, but I don't think it would be something I want to do, but I don't think it'd be practical or realistically done.
Yeah, I think I prefer if there's only one tire manufacturer at a time, because as I said, there's going to be a lot of bias. It seems obviously Bridgestone were extremely biased towards Ferrari and didn't care about Marley and Jordan too much. So I'd like if there's only one tire manufacturer at a time, but who knows? Come after 2023. Anyways,
I'm really gonna have it though. They need to bring back the colored walls. I'm sorry, like I'm sick of just seeing red, white, and yellow. I want to see the pinks again, man. I love those. I miss the Hypersoft and all of that. Let's bring those back at least, but make them safe this time.
Yeah, definitely. Just bring back some more colors, isn't it? Anyways, moving on to our last topic. It's a tweet we put out, a good couple of weeks ago, which got a lot of traction, about 300 responses. And we basically said, if everyone's in the equal cause, what would the order be, basically? Majority of people said Lewis top. A lot of people said around about Max second, Leclerc third. I think it was Danny Rick fourth and Checo fifth. So it was pretty, you could say the community knows wheel. But other people may disagree with that. So just to touch on you, Mort, we're not going to go through every driver just like on the spot because just to go on your 1 to 5 and reasons for that, basically, likely which one. So if everyone's in the same car, who is your 1 to 5 in terms of ability, really?
I think from when the tweet came out to now, I think I might have changed my opinion. So Lewis, obviously number 1, then Checo, number 2. I feel like number 3, Max, number 4. I will say I'm gonna shamelessly say Vettel, and number 5. I feel like after Baku and all those races, I feel like a lot of these drivers are showing a different type of pace. This is also assuming that these drivers know the car inside and out as well. So, yeah, if they're all on equal thing, I feel like that's the type of thing you'll get. They showed good pace. I think the other two, but Checo and Hamilton, just because of their tire management, it just helps with strategy so much, doesn't it? You can go longer. You're not worried about anything, and we'll kind of see it in the coming seasons, especially if they do more sprint races where the cars are a bit more equal. We'll see sprint races where strategy will matter less, and we'll see that Hamilton and Checo will be number 1 and 2.
You're putting Checo ahead of Max, who Max and the same back race you're talking about where Checo won. Max was leading. If it wasn't for the type bar, he would have run that race.
Do you mean the same? You mean where Red Bull held Checo up for about half a second and released him just in time to get ahead of Hamilton? That same Max that can't fend. Red Bull didn't have enough faith in to fend off Lewis and to battle Checo at the same time. My guy Lewis can do that though. He can come out and he can fend off. He will fend off Max and he will go wall to wall Checo. Max can't do that. That's what I'm gonna say. We saw it. They didn't. That I think it was the rare left. They didn't change that. They held it for a bit and they let him go just in time so Max can pass, but he's just in front of Lewis, and that's it really. Because they know Checo's better at fending off Lewis. They don't have no faith in Max. I
don't think it was that. I feel like they used to obviously block off Lewis per se and let Max have his race. I feel like Checo as well, because Checo in that team, he's the second driver of that team. That is Max's team, so they use Checo as a pawn for Lewis. I don't know. I'm
not listening to it. As I said, that's my agenda, and I'm sticking to it.
Say no more. There's no agenda over here, so.
All right then, Kwame. What's your 1 to 5 then? Since apparently Checo's second best on the grid. I mean, a certain cast member will be happy to hear that, but that's not here nor there.
My top 5, ironically, is the same one that's been listed. Because I'm going through my top 10 based on the tweet that I was posting in May, so they may be changed, but I'm keeping it the same. I had Hamilton first, Verstappen second, Leclerc third, Ricciardo fourth, and Perez fifth. So yeah, that was at the time.
Yeah, because I see obviously Martins went on current form. I mean, I probably should have made this clear that, this is based on just ability. So, I mean, you can bring form into it, but I don't feel like a driver can fall off after 6 races, really. I mean, as you see from, what was the 4th race? Was it not Monaco? Was it Portugal? No, Spain? No, I can't even remember. Whatever it is.
Monaco was 4th.
Yeah, Portugal, yeah. There's a lot of talk, people saying, oh, yeah, Seb's fell off, Danny Rick's in the more, blah, blah, blah. You see Seb the last 2 races, a 5th and a 2nd place. So now, some people, are giving him his flowers, or other people hold him back, who maybe it's a fluke and blah, 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 this, that, and the third. So, I respect both lists. I got time for Seb. My list is probably more leaning towards Kwame's because I'm going to base it on ability, not really on form. But, that's not here nor there. So quickly, let's do 6 to 10 then. Kwame, I'm going to come back to you.
No worries. So I thought 6 to 10 is much more harder. I thought it's much more like the midfield of the grid, just like in real life as well. It's much more closer. Similar to what you said, mine is kind of based on, I believe, my ability, whilst I believe Mars is more based on current form, which is, I feel like, a fair enough comparison to see how drivers are comparing between their ability and their form. But we went out of time, so I'm going to do this quickly. 6th, I put Sainz. 7th, I put Russell. 8th, I put Norris. 9th, I put Bottas. And 10th, I put Gasly.
What about you, Mart?
So 6 to 10, I'm gonna have, I would say, Danny Rick, 6, number 7, Sainz, number 8, Norris, number 9, Stroll, and number 10, Mazepin. I'm joking.
This guy's on crud.
I was like, I don't know what I think it is.
Number 10 Russell. Number 10 Russell.
Oh, certain. I mean, good thing Chris is not on the pod because he's not going to be happy about that. You put in Georgie boy in 10th. Why is that then? Just to touch on that one real quick.
I just don't think. I feel like I've seen more from the other drivers over the past years, isn't it? So it's not about. It's not really about anything about Russell. I think Russell's is a good driver. I do feel like I am one of those people. I wouldn't really put him in the Mercedes next year right now, but that's neither here nor there. But I just believe that Russell. I've seen more from others. So Sainz and Norris, I've seen more of it from them. Ricardo, we also know what Ricardo's done in the past, and we know what he can do in a quick car. Once he gets his feet in this McLaren, hopefully I don't have to start my agenda. But if he doesn't, the Ricardo agenda is coming. And Stroll has been very quick as well in the racing point last couple of years. So I suppose 9 and 10, Stroll and I think I had Stroll at 9, didn't I? So Stroll and Russell, you can toss it up.
Yeah, you can mix them up. Yeah.
Either one.
Yeah,
I thought they have similar abilities. Nothing to... Yeah, that's it really.
Yeah.
I will say, I will shout out to Alonso as well. Even though he's an old man, he's still got some type of skill. So he can probably get into that number 10 honourable mention though.
Yeah, I can't lie. I've got an agenda on a certain Spaniard, and especially that Alonso Vigen as well, who's racing for Ferrari as well. I'm a slow cook that, I'm going to put on 3 hours,
Yeah,
I'm a slow cook that
agenda, please, man.
Yeah, I'm a slow cook. I've got reasons that I cannot explain on the pod, but I will explain in the WhatsApp group because I do not want to get shut down by the Spanish embassy. That's all. So,
I think I was cooking that agenda as well. I said it'd be a slow burner, but it was.
Don't worry, we'll pop out like Mario. We'll pop out like Mario. Don't worry. Just got to keep it slow. So, just to end the podcast on you, Kwame, why have you put Bottas at number 9? I know it sounds like a stupid question, but
that's cool.
I'm here to content.
No, it's cool. I'm all for this. Bottas and Gasly, it was debatable. It was either be 9th or 10th. Bottas and Gasly. Gasly can be 9th. Bottas can be 10th, depending on how you put it. Bottas, listen, I don't think that Donny is the media driver. I said the GC. I feel like he's a very meaty driver. But listen, he's doing his job as a second driver. He was getting the podiums that was needed. He was getting the second, third places. That was needed for Mercedes to be in the Constructors' Championship. Listen, is that bad as he has been compared to Lewis? He kind of has done his job in the sense that being a second driver, get the podiums. He has to be winning races, cool. But he's been somewhat consistent, even though it's been underperforming, in my opinion, compared to, maybe to his teammate, but compared to that Max, who, especially last season, he was in a better car than Max. Yeah, Max was competing with him for like the second and third places. It made me put him down. But then also as well, again, I was thinking about putting people like, your Vettel and your Alonso and whatnot, but Vettel's previous seasons, again, his past 2 seasons for Ferrari were very, very poor, especially compared to Leclerc. Like, the gap between Leclerc and Vettel last year was bigger than Bottas and Hamilton. Yet people get into Bottas. I'm not Bottas' biggest fan. I'm not Kunle, but the gap wasn't as bad as people say, in my opinion.
I would say this though, like, I mean, we spend too much time. I don't want to spend too much time knocking on Bottas. That's what probably doing the most at the moment, not knowing the team or whatever. So he when he did have competition in like 2017 or 2018, where the Ferrari was quite quick, he didn't do too well. Like he finished like 4th or 5th in the driver championship.
I'm pretty sure he was 5th still.
Yeah, so when he does have competition, he didn't do too well. And you think about it, he was still in a quick Mercedes. So it's a weird one with Bottas, man. He's got to be in the right frame of mind, I suppose, to get onto it. But as I said, we're not going to bash him this week. We'll give him a break until he messes up next week, and then we will get onto him again.
Yeah, I mean, he's only done his job, 50% of the time this season, out of 6 races. So, that's not here nor there, is it? Anyways, people, that's all we have time for. Thank you for joining us today on another episode of Pitstop Fracas. Please remember to like, subscribe. You already know the vibes by now. And if you want to get involved in the conversation, make sure you look in the description down below and get involved in the Discord. If you also want to get involved on Twitter, make sure to use the hashtag Pitstop Fracas. And we'll see you next time out for Paul Ricard. Peace.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.